that's when the feeling of winning it's so powerful and so meaningful today for me, because I saw a team that I feel really identify with. The personality that show in difficult moments, how they stick to what they have to do, but at the same time they believe the courage and the free mind to just go for it and attack them and put them under pressure.
One very happy man there, Mikel Arteta, certainly after once again proving our supercomputer wrong this weekend with a good victory for Arsenal over Liverpool as their march towards the potential Premier League title. Although if you saw our teaser on Twitter, Arteta still not wanting to talk about this title race just yet. Joining me on the Day-to-Day Live here on Twitter, on YouTube and on Twitch is Matt Furniss and Duncan Alexander to break down what was another great weekend of action, apart from two of the clubs that we support, where it was a pretty miserable weekend for two of us, with Reading and Watford suffering defeats. But let's get into the big game of the weekend straight away off the bat. Wycombe Wanderers going on the road to Oxford. Big victory there, Duncan.
Yeah, massive win. Needed to win that and now own all image rights for the M40 until the next reverse fixture. So obviously the key bit of the game was Alfie Mawson's assist driven across the pitch. One of the best assists you'll see in any division. So yeah, worth checking that out.
Definitely. Right, let's get back to the Premier League and to the big stuff that occurred. Obviously, Arsenal coming away with that 3-2 victory over Liverpool. Hard fought in some respects. Liverpool really putting up a bit of a battle at times to peg the Gunners back twice. But in the end, the class, I think that as Arteta's getting into then, the class and the confidence of this side shone through again.
Yeah, they took the game to Liverpool yesterday. Kind of what we expected, really. They followed up what they've been doing all season in every game. I said last week, towards the end of the week, that they haven't really been challenged yet. The only challenge they did have was the United game, which they lost. But this was certainly just as big a challenge, if not a bigger one, against the Liverpool side that they passed quite easily, really. I think 2 goals probably flattered Liverpool. I think Arsenal could have even had more. And I just think they were brilliant yesterday. They took the game to Liverpool, played exactly how their fans want Arsenal to play. And yeah, they're looking brilliant, looking really good so far.
Yeah, I thought, obviously, we mentioned at various places last week, Liverpool would try and maybe open a bit more cautiously and settle into the game. They did 58 seconds before conceding, so that wasn't ideal. And I think the thing Liverpool fans are most angry about is if you look at that momentum chart there, that, you know, they did fight their way back into it in the first half. You know, got that equaliser, a really good goal from Darwin Núñez. But then if you look right at the end of the first half, Arsenal's get the momentum back. And obviously the goal that Arsenal scored just before half-time was some ridiculous play from Liverpool, like committing so many men forward and then getting caught on the break. And obviously, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold was criticised for moving out of position, but he was trying to cover, you know, Jordan Henderson's lack of pace. And I think 1-1 at half-time, Liverpool could have kind of reset a bit, but they just, you know, they give up so many good chances in every game now. And yeah, it's they're in a pretty tough spot. You know, massive week ahead. I think they should be able to beat Rangers, and that should get them pretty much through to the knockout stages of the Champions League. But then they've got to play Manchester City next weekend, and that could be carnage.
Yeah, and they're already 14 points behind top of the league, so that's already the title out the window, isn't it? Really, we know that. But top 4 is looking in doubt now, with the 4 teams at the top looking so strong, plus Chelsea. And even Newcastle, the new Big Six.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was good to hear Martin Tyler using some up to data during the game. He mentioned how Liverpool surpassed times trailing this season. You know, more than last season already, which is staggering with this number of games in. And yeah, it is. I think they've still got enough to turn it around in terms of top 4, but they can't afford to fall too far behind, because this season's very strange as well. Obviously, with the World Cup, we've got another midweek set of games next week. So the games are coming thick and fast. And if you get into a bit of a spiral, then it's going to be pretty bad.
Yeah, Belly, if you bring that momentum graphic back up, I think one of the turning points in that first half was when Luis Diaz came off. He started to really make an impact around the time you see Liverpool's momentum spike here. And he was getting in behind, finding some really decent spaces, starting to link up quite nicely with Darwin Núñez. And then he came off. And it really nullified that threat going forward that Liverpool had over that 10-15 minute period. And Nunez became less impactful because of it as well. It affected his game. So Arsenal definitely took advantage of that. But we talk about Liverpool, their inability to see out the first half in that game. It's not the first time this season. They've only been winning one game at half-time. And if all Premier League games ended at half-time, Liverpool would be bottom of the league with 4 points. Obviously, it doesn't end at half-time. But they're giving themselves an uphill battle in every match. And they're not able to turn it around.
Yeah, that's why I made them once again the crisis club of the week. Yeah, like you say, bottom of the table if games ended at half time. And yeah, there's the music. Bring it on. Weekend. So yeah, it's looking really tough for them.
Yeah, let's just have a little dive into Jurgen Klopp's post-match press conference, because he has himself admitted in it that the title race is coming to an end. But obviously, Matt alluded to this new system that they sort of tried to implement over the last couple of weeks. But already Klopp seemingly still happy to go with it, but he knows he's got some challenges ahead.
No, not about that. Not about that. I think the goals we conceded had nothing to do with the system. That we have to get used to it a bit more is normal as well. Can we play it again? I don't know, because we lost today one important part of it. So we have to see who is available for the next game. But do I have deeper concerns? Yes, of course. I'm not happy. How can I? Your colleague from TalkSport told me now he knows me just happy all the time and making jokes. So I'm not sure exactly which type. Which Jurgen Klopp he knows, but we are obviously neither in the mood for jokes nor happy. We are in a tough moment, and we want to get through this together, and that's what we are working on.
Never a good sign when a manager's using the word tough moment. You can do sort of the cast of doom sometimes across clubs, but he looks a little lost at the moment, I think. And one thing we've spoken about is the fact that their team is one of the oldest at the moment in the Premier League, and maybe the depth isn't there as well because they've have many issues. And I thought this was quite an interesting graphic that you guys put together on the Ops Analyst on our Twitter account over the weekend, basically showing that, yeah, right now Liverpool got the third oldest average age starting 11, and you compare that to Arsenal, who have the second youngest at the moment, and it really does kind of bode the question, I have to say. Are we kind of seeing the passing of the torch at the moment between Liverpool and Arsenal, and that Arsenal are now going to be the official challengers to City's dominance in this league?
Yeah, and I think like yesterday's game looked like a match where Liverpool's legs were 3 or 4 years older than Arsenal's. They struggled. But the thing I find funny about Liverpool is kind of like everyone saying what a great team they are and how special they've been and one of the best Premier League teams ever. It won one title, that team, and it's you can't consider it a great Premier League side.
They've got over 90 points in three seasons, so they just happen to find a Manchester City team doing just slightly better in each of those. So I think in terms of sustained, like before they lost ridiculously to Watford in the year they did win the title. You said yesterday that they had like a rolling points per game of like 2.56 or 2.6 over 38 games, which is better than any team's ever done in top flight history. So
I think it was as high as 2.95. They'd only dropped 2 points in that 38 games, something like that. So it was ridiculous. They had a ridiculous run, but great teams sustain that over 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, but if you look at that team, 3 years ago, then you look at the players who are struggling at the moment, and they were 3 years younger. That's how time works. But Van Dijk, Henderson, Matip, they were all younger and probably stronger. And Liverpool have kind of allowed their core of their team to age quite a lot at the same time. And I think that's the issue, is that their recruitment was great sort of 4, 5, 6 years ago, but they kind of it hasn't been as good in the last couple of years. And obviously they have started to change that this year, bringing in like Fabio Carvalho is obviously really young, and Nunez is obviously young but coming into his prime. But if you let that drift too much, it can take a long time to turn around. We've seen it with other Premier League teams, and that's why you constantly have to. That's what Alex Ferguson was great at Manchester United, was getting rid of players possibly before they were finished, but so he could keep refreshing the team. So.
Indeed. Well, one man who isn't worried about his recruitment at the moment is Pep Guardiola. Again, another victory for City this weekend over Southampton, although he did have one thing to complain about this weekend's action.
Yeah, but I'm so upset with him. He didn't score 3 goals, so
Sack him.
that's why the petition to sack him for the Premier League, because the robot, that is not going to happen. So it's nice.
Yeah, Southampton doing a bit of a job there, managing to keep Erling Haaland to just 1 goal. We'll have a listen to Ralph Hasenhüttl in a minute, because he did break down how his Southampton tried to stop the threat of Erling Haaland. But again, another positive day for City, really. 4-0, job done. Shake the hands on. We go to the next challenge, really.
Yeah, I mean, what's that? 8 or 9 games in a row, home games in a row now, where they've scored 3 or more goals. It's one of the best runs we've ever seen. Southampton got one corner at the end of the game, which their fans were excited about, saying we've got a corner. So, I think 4-0 is probably a pretty good result, really, given some of Southampton's trip around the country recently. So, I mean, I think it's interesting. Phil Foden, he's had, 4 fewer shots or 3 fewer shots than Mohamed Salah this season, but he's got 6 goals and Salah's only on 2. So I think we're possibly seeing the first season where he's really kind of, cementing his place as one of the senior players in both the team and the league. But I mean, it's funny, isn't it? City unbeaten, can't stop scoring, have a robot up front, and yet they're still not top of the league. And I tweeted last night that Arsenal have got 8 wins out of 9, which is pretty good. Most teams, would take that. But the last 2 teams that haven't won the league after starting like that were Arsenal in 2007-08 and Arsenal in 2004-05. So they have blown this sort of position before, and with City just lurking behind them, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
But on that XG shot map you just showed there as well, to see the amount of shots that Manchester City have in that area inside the box, like no shot from outside the box apart from that one just on the edge. Like when you've got a player like Haaland and you know that you're creating that many chances inside the box, it's just scary to think about how many goals he could end up with this season. To have 20 already in all competitions, not even mid-November, October.
October,
yeah.
Imagine having 15 goals already at this point in the season. Like, some people would say that was would be considered a very good season for him, but already at that point.
Gabriel Jesus' best season at City was 14 goals. Now I know they're not the same player, and Jesus was, not the kind of relentless focal point of the attack. But even so, it's interesting. Not the top scorer in the Premier League doesn't usually win the title. So I think that could change this season. But or maybe not. Maybe Haaland's going to get 90 goals but come second.
But with City, it's kind of like they're getting so many goals other than Haaland as well, aren't they? That's the thing. Like, other players are scoring. I think the one time it usually gets worrying is when you've got a player like Haaland, but no one else getting those goals. Maybe like a Mitrovic at Fulham, or I wouldn't say a Kane at Spurs, because you've got Kane and Son as well. But normally, you see one player stand out in the goal scoring ranks for a team, but it isn't happening in this City team.
Yeah, let's just have a listen to Southampton manager for now, Ralph Hasenhüttl, about what he tried to do and his side tried to do to stop the threat of Haaland.
Now, the problem is that even if he is not immediately scoring, you have to be aware of him much more, I think. And then the centre backs are a little bit more fixed in the centre, and then they cannot slide so good. I think this makes it a little bit harder for us than to press. You have to be very brave if you want to do it. We had in the first half 2 scenes where we didn't slide, and then they play so quick, and then there's immediately big goal chance. I think it was also the first chance from Erling where he was there. It is better to be early there and go early, because anyway it's hard to defend. So this is the way we tried it today, and it worked. Yeah, and sometimes it works quite well, but not always.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to really break this down and see. Southampton did try and press City at times, which, with the talent in that City squad, feels potentially suicidal, though. I don't want to use any other word for it, because, as you say, they're the talent that can expose so much. But maybe that is the solution, that actually meet fire with fire and try and put City under pressure and see them create errors, and rather than allow them to get comfortable and get where they want to be.
It's just
possibly, but they still won 4-0, and Haaland didn't play particularly well, and De Bruyne didn't have one of his great games, but he still got his 95th Premier League assist, 94 of them for City, which means he's now ahead of David Silva. It's inevitable, but he'll be at 100 before long. Only 4 players have ever reached that. As you can see, Lampard, Rooney, Fabregas, and Ryan Giggs is well up front on 162. I mean, could De Bruyne break that? Everyone's obviously focusing on Shearer's goal record these days, but depends how many seasons he's got left, I guess. But I think that, as I said the other day, I think he's definitely a good shout to break the 20 assist record this season. So
yeah, well, he's on 9 now already this season, I think, in the Premier League. So very good chance. But we saw Salah last season reach double figures really quickly in the season, and then AFCON came around and he pieced out a little towards the end of the season as well. With goal involvements, he looked like he was going to smash that one as well. So, yeah, a long way to go. But you know that City are going to keep getting goals, and the main source of the assists is probably going to come via Kevin de Bruyne. I reckon he could even hit 25 this season.
Yeah, let's have a listen to Pep Guardiola. He spoke about Kevin de Bruyne, and dare I say it, Duncan Alexander and Pep Guardiola next door to each other have the same opinion on Kevin de Bruyne's performance.
About a lot of things, yeah.
No, exactly. To be fair, I feel like I'm talking to. It's just you feel like you're the one who went to Advanced Hair Studio, unlike Pep Guardiola.
Wow. Got names.
Yeah, someone has to, because Shane Warne's contract's gone. So anyway, let's have a listen to what Pep Guardiola's got to say about Kevin de Bruyne.
This threat, this guy like make movements in behind with this space helps a lot. And Kevin make again 3 or 4 assists, but he can play better. He can play better. Today was not the best Kevin that we know, but of course for himself he can put his mates in front of the keeper most of the time. But he was not ready in the positions like we should find him. And
so good, but could do better, I think, is Pep Guardiola's feedback there. But yeah, as he went on to say that it's not just Haaland. You've got so, as Matt's kind of alluded to as well, they've got so many other options now in behind there, where including Julian Alvarez, who I still think will have a good point at some point in this campaign. But
the man who's going to be top goal scorer this season in the Premier League. Yeah.
I still think he's going to take down Jesus. I mean, it's not.
Well, I said Jesus. Yeah, that's not happening. We all know it's going to be Haaland. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst take we've seen about top scorers in the Premier League this season anywhere on the internet. So anyway, right, let's roll on from that one pretty sharpest, because it was another record-breaking week. Well, not record-breaking, but a milestone-marking moment for one of the great players of world football, as Cristiano Ronaldo netted his 700th club goal over the weekend. And as you can imagine, after the match, both managers, after United's 2-1 victory over Everton, we're happy to pass on their regards.
That is really impressive when you score 700 goals. That is it's a huge performance, and I'm really happy for him. I congratulate him.
You know, when he was on 699, I wanted him to score in the Europa League the other night, because you could feel what might come at the weekend. And then he comes on because Martial's got a problem. Sometimes those things happen in football. But you have to, in the cold light of day, I'll give him huge credit for that. It's amazing.
In the cold light of day, your microphone was terrible as well.
Yeah, he's back up from that mic.
It was great to see the first Lampard transition, though, on the day-to-day live that we've ever had as well. Really good to see go between the two there. But yeah, I mean, again, Everton have been sneakily becoming a bit of a challenging side. I mean, Alex Iwobi's goal to start that game was a sensational strike and Everton did cause their problems, but 2 big turnovers, and there's no other way of describing it from Everton, really just allowed United to hit on the counter. And dare I say it, you saw the young and the old with Anthony and Ronaldo netting goals in very similar fashions.
Yeah, Ronaldo, I mean, that goal was always going to come eventually, wasn't it, the 700? It's probably better for him and United that it's got out of the way, because it would have been one of those ones where you feel that sometimes United might be giving him a bit of a charity appearance, like they did in the Europa League, just to try and get that goal where everyone was trying to set him up. But his goal yesterday was like vintage Ronaldo, really breaking away and hitting it so hard, really, between the goalkeeper goalkeeper's legs. Talking about the goalkeeper, I genuinely thought we were going to see a goalkeeper goal at the end yesterday. When Pickford came up for a corner, he looked like a man possessed at the corner, throwing himself at everything. So
sometimes when keepers come up for corners, they just get in the way, but he actually did make a bit of a difference. So, I mean, Jordan Pickford scoring a goal would be tremendous.
There was that one a few weeks ago, wasn't there, Belly? Plymouth v Ipswich. The Ipswich keeper, wasn't he a Plymouth fan as well? Came up for a corner in injury time and hit the bar.
Correct. Yeah. Plymouth fan as a kid, all the way through, family all in the ground playing for Ipswich, and he rattled a header off the crossbar or such like in the last.
We've seen Dieng at QPR scored at Sunderland this season in the Championship, come up for a corner of a header. I can't recall many seasons where you've had more than one goalkeeper goal in the EFL. So who knows? Might expect another. Teams getting desperate and sending goalkeepers forward.
It's the next paradigm. I mean, we should give a shout out to Anthony. I mean, he's the first player in Manchester United's Premier League history to score in his first 3 appearances. So obviously, people made a lot of the possibly slightly inflated transfer fee they paid late on in the window, but you can't really ask for a better start than that. And he's kind of done more in a few weeks than I guess Jadon Sancho has in a year and a bit. So, and like you say, Belly, the gap between them. I mean, that was Ronaldo's 700th goal, as we all know, but that was 20 years and 2 days after his first goal. So, I mean, 20 years is a long time. So, fair play.
With United as well, since that debacle against Brentford when they lost 4-0, they've won 7 of their 9 competitive games. One of those was the defeat. So one of the defeats in them was away at Man City, which is no disgrace, really, although it was a fairly disgraceful performance in the first half. And then the other was a 1-0 home defeat in the Europa League against Sociedad. So they have turned the tide, I would say, since that defeat. 7 wins is nothing to really be like negative about it. I think that they are exceeding possibly what people expected of United at this stage last season. Ten Hag seems to have got Rashford and Martial firing again. There are a couple of areas where you think that maybe if they can reinforce in January with a couple of signings that they could probably cement that top 4 position. But I think that obviously we know Arsenal are doing really well at the moment, but over time, I reckon that they might lose way a little bit. I still think they'll finish in the top 4. But I think United could easily sneak a second place finish this season.
Wow, going up as high as that. That's quite a... I think that's quite...
Well, I think it's all to play for. I think that you've got I don't think Chelsea were going to do it under Tuchel, but I think under Potter they could. You've got Spurs under Conte. You never really know how they're going to do, but I feel like he will take them into that top 4. So you could say any of those 4 teams other than Liverpool in the Big 6 could finish second. I'm just not thinking Liverpool are going to do it, and I don't think Newcastle are quite there yet.
I mean, Everton have now lost 38 Premier League games against Manchester United, that's a whole season. Imagine a season where you watch your team play one other team over and over again, and you lose every game. Wouldn't be fun?
It felt like they
basically
played Man City. To be fair,
yeah, true. So I think it's all to play for. I think United. The thing with United this year is that they're a work in progress still, but they do actually have a manager who commands a bit of respect, and they're doing what he tells them to, which pretty much wasn't the case last season. So it's definitely cautious improvement, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like it's going to be a slow burn. I think the trouble is you've got United fans who are just wanting instant success right now. This is a slow burning United side. This very much has a little bit of the Arteta at Arsenal feel. Couple of seasons of just grinding through the gears to get your culture and get everything in place.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget, Klopp came into Liverpool and they got to the Europa League final in his first season, but they were rubbish in the league pretty much. Guardiola didn't win the Premier League in his first season at City, and they barely qualified for the Champions League that year as well. So it does take time to do this. Now, I know that
it's weird giving managers more than 3 months. Being a Watford fan.
Well, isn't Beale at QPR is now the 11th longest serving manager in Championship, and he's joined it this summer. So that division loves a hatchet.
I think he might
I
even
think
be
Bruce is the eighth to go already this season in the Championship.
It's crazy. It's just desperate for success. I mean, we still got what? Billick's going to walk in what, a week or about a month or so.
Billick has already lost as many league games as Rob Edwards did.
Mm.
He's been in charge for 10 days, something like that. And that's no fault of his own. We've had a lot of injuries and we have got a dreadful squad.
So, talking of sacked managers, we should probably give a shout out to a club that have decided just to not have a manager, which is Bournemouth. Obviously, got rid of Scott Parker weeks ago. Gary O'Neill has not lost a game as manager. They're now 2 points above Liverpool, who they lost 9-0 to, which precipitated the sacking. But their numbers are bizarre. They've got barely 4 XG this season, which is like at least 4 fewer than any other club, and yet they've got 12 points. Their points to XG ratio is the most off the charts thing I've ever seen. So it's not sustainable, perhaps, but you know they're picking up points.
Points on the board, that's
exactly. So you know, I think there'll be a lot of established Premier League clubs who will look at Fulham and Bournemouth. I know Fulham have lost the last couple, but who are both kind of in mid-table. And that's quite concerning because I think a lot of people felt that all 3 promoted teams were in danger this season of going straight back down. But if 2 of them are, you know, picking up points here and there, then, you know, that's warning signs for some fairly big clubs at the other end of the table.
Obviously, Forest are playing tonight, but that's quite interesting that the 3 promoted clubs are the clubs that have the fewest open play XG this season as well. I think, Mitrovic is injured, isn't he, for Fulham? I don't know how long he's going to be out for, but
not too bad.
Their style of play will definitely be hampered by him not being there. But yeah, with Gary O'Neill, you feel that if they were to give him the job, then suddenly the results will be rubbish again. It's always that way with caretaker managers, isn't it? Just never give him the job. Just keep him the same.
Yeah, that is the golden rule of football. I've seen it so many times where a caretaker does well, and they're like, "Wow, give him a chance. He knows the club." And as soon as it's permanent,
what did you do that for?
Evaporates. It's known as the Neil Smiley paradigm in football circles.
Great Reading legends to be mentioned there. I just actually wanted to bring up, for those of you who are watching us across YouTube, Twitch and Twitter, we saw the Open Play XG for. This is the Open Play XG against, and having mentioned that the 3 promoted clubs, sorry, we're not in the 1990s anymore. The 3 promoted clubs were at the bottom in terms of Open Play for XG. Look at it against. Bournemouth definitely up there, Fulham definitely up there, Nottingham Forest up there. So at some point you might see the pendulum come back into the middle a little bit, and maybe some of these early success. Now, by all means, some of that is not helped by some of the defeats Bournemouth had earlier this season, but you might see it come back round.
Inflated, so feel for Bournemouth there a little bit with that game.
I mean, it's a pretty established way of staying up. I mean, Hull, when they came up the first time, did just enough. That obviously they famously won away at Spurs and Arsenal in the autumn, and basically, you know, did nothing in the second half of the season, but had enough just to stay up. Blackpool nearly did that, but did go down, robbing us of another season of Gary Taylor-Fletcher in the top flight. But so yeah, I think it. You know, everyone talks about the you know, people focus on the end of the season in terms of form, but just get as many, you know, harvest as many points as you can in the autumn, and then just hang on for dear life.
The comparison that was coming in my head was the one they kept banging on about in the NFL this weekend, in that if you're behind in games, such like go for the 2-point conversion early rather than later on, because it takes the pressure off. It's kind of the same here. Get your points on the board early doors. It means if you have a bad run in March, April time, it's not the end of the world. You've already got the points in the hutch. You've just got to make sure you've got enough points in the hutch.
In the hutch? What sort of terminology is that?
A disgraceful term.
Well, you pull rabbits out of hatches, so out of hats.
He's lost it. But I think where
only today, this is Mental Health Day, and clearly mine's just shot at the moment. So.
But where, like you're talking about points there and gaining points as well. But if you have that by the January transfer window, if you're in a better position there as well, you're able to strengthen. Players will want to join you. If you're right down in the bottom and not looking like you could stay up, no one else is going to want to join you for a year in the Championship next year. So that's why it's really important to get that first half of the season under your belt.
Well, what Nottingham Forest going to do in January boggles the mind, isn't it? But,
especially with Cooper staying. It's going to be
that, dare I say, that's as much as been many bizarre stories across football weekend. Steve Cooper getting an extension through to 2025. I can only assume there's some fairly decent clauses in there that at some point, if they need to reverse ferret on there, they can, because it just baffling.
He's very popular with Forest.
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry, I forgot about the popularity points in the Premier League that keeps you in the it keeps you up. Like,
maybe it was a David Brent kind of thing where he was just like, just don't let me go. I'll work for free. I'll do anything. Call me
caretaker. He's like, think where Forest were a year ago and where they are now. I know,
Cooper's done an amazing job, but he clearly doesn't want half the players that have been brought in there. That's unsettled the whole squad. Like Emmanuel Dennis, a fine example, really talented player, great at Watford last season. I think 16 goal involvements for a terrible side, and he's played 75 minutes for Forest so far this season. He's been on the bench unused, etc. Definitely good enough in terms of talent to be there, but I don't think Cooper wanted him. Doesn't really feel that he fits that system, and it's just the danger of having quite an overbearing owner who makes it or gets other people to make decisions, and you're a head coach. But I'm getting into Watford territory here again.
Very dangerous land. Very, very dangerous land. The one thing I did spot this over the weekend, which I thought was an absolute belter of an insight ahead of tonight's game between Forest and Villa. So Forest have won just one of their 10 games against Aston Villa in the Premier League. Their one win came in October 1994 when the referee was Keith Cooper, father of Nottingham Forest manager Steve Cooper. I thought that was quite a nice little...
His dad was the ref.
His dad was the ref the only time Forest had beaten Villa in the Premier League.
Explains a lot.
He's not the ref tonight, though.
Well, but hang on here.
Like a wrestling style entrance.
Well, this is what I'm you wait. Little bit of cramp in the lino. Little bit of cramp goes down. The call goes
Jimmy
out.
Hill special.
We need a referee in the crowd. Keith's got the kit in the car. Just come on, lads.
Yeah. And they were like, "What's your name, Keith? Surname? Don't worry about that."
Mooper.
Yeah. Are you any relation? Nah. Oh, good. I'll do the game.
Well, I mean, I'd take great delight in giving penalties against, my son's team. So I don't think it should be banned. It should be fine.
Be one of those dads that's overtly fair to the opposition, just to be.
Yeah.
Don't want to be accused of nepotism here. I'm sending my son off, all right?
Yeah.
Intimidated by the opposition fans. Just get off the pitch, son. I'm sending you off. What for? Doesn't matter. I'll explain later.
We'll talk about it on the way home. Many a doubt I had as a junior. Right then, I think that's it for today's episode of the Day-to-Day Live. Lots to dive into. Didn't even get into. I wanted to chat about Aaron Ramsdale as well. I thought he had a superb weekend, and as we're rolling in towards World Cup time, has he been doing enough in the Arsenal net that maybe he becomes the England number one? Maybe that's something we dive into.
Not coming forward for corners though, is he? So.
No, exactly. Pickford, dual threat.
Pickford's great. Pickford is the one, arguably the one thing you can count on the England team these days. So,
I think we saw enough from Nick Pope in the UEFA Nations League that he's not the answer.
Yeah, Ramsdale should be number 2, I think. But yeah, Pickford is the main man, and rightly so.
There we go. Well, we discussed it, and it took a minute rather than 5 minutes and terrible puns along the way. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening, watching, wherever you are. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to head over to theanalyst.com for all the latest data-driven storytelling, and of course, visit us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We are on all of them as @OptaAnalyst. But for now, happy Mental Health Day to each and every one of you. On behalf of Matt, on behalf of Duncan, thanks very much for tuning in today, guys. Lovely to see you as ever. And hopefully we will see you on Friday. Bye-bye.